A crustacean about 1.5 inches long sits in a sample jar. It is pale, translucent in places, and unremarkable to look at. You would walk past it in a rock pool without a second glance. It was collected at 7,902 meters beneath the surface of the Pacific, in the Atacama Trench, at a depth where the pressure is roughly 790 times what you are experiencing right now. And it is a predator, not a scavenger waiting for food to fall from above, which is what almost everything at that depth does. A hunter, something that goes looking. Its name is Dulcibella camanchaca, and its existence quietly rewrites what we thought was possible at the bottom of the ocean. This is the Trench Report. Let us go down. First, understand where we are, because the numbers do not mean much without a reference point. The ocean is usually divided into zones by depth. Sunlight reaches down about 200 meters. Below that, the twilight zone, where a faint blue remnant of light persists to around 1,000 meters. Below that, the midnight zone, where no sunlight arrives at all, and the only light is what living things make themselves. Then, below 6,000 meters, you reach the hadal-zone, named after Hades. It is not a layer that covers the ocean floor evenly. It exists only in trenches, the deep gouges where one tectonic plate is sliding beneath another. That distinction matters enormously, and it is the key to this entire story. The hadal-zone is not one habitat. It is a scatter of isolated pockets separated from each other by thousands of kilometers of shallower ocean that hadal species cannot cross. Each trench is effectively an island at the bottom of the sea. Now, the pressure, because it is the defining condition, and most people underestimate it. At 7,900 meters, pressure is around 790 times atmospheric. Every square inch of an animal's body is under a load measured in tons. This is not a difficulty that can be endured with a tougher shell. Pressure at that magnitude interferes with biochemistry itself. Proteins fold incorrectly. Cell membranes lose the fluidity they need to function. The molecular machinery of life stops working properly, which is why for a long time the assumption was that the trenches were essentially empty, too extreme, too cold, too dark, and too far from any food source. A dead zone at the bottom of a living ocean. That assumption has been dismantled comprehensively. A 2026 study published in Science identified 32 species living on the ocean floor in the Kermadec and Mariana Trenches, and found similar communities in other deep regions, including Atacama. Not survivors clinging on, communities, functioning ecosystems with structure and roles. Which brings us back to why a predator matters more than it sounds. An ecosystem has layers. At the bottom, you need something bringing energy in. In the hadal-zone, that is largely marine snow, the constant, slow fall of organic material from the ocean above, plus the occasional windfall when something large dies and sinks. Scavengers live off that. Amphipods swarming a carcass on the seafloor are the classic image of trench life. And for a long time, that was essentially the whole picture. A scavenger economy, running on scraps from a world it never sees. A predator implies something more. Predators exist where there is enough prey to make hunting worthwhile. Hunting is expensive. It costs energy to search, to pursue, to capture. In an environment where calories are scarce, that strategy only pays if there is a reliable population of something to eat. So, Dulcibella camanchaca is not just a curiosity. It is evidence of a food web with enough depth to support a hunting lifestyle at 8,000 meters. That tells you the ecosystem down there is considerably richer than a pile of scavengers waiting for a whale to die. Now the part one find most compelling, and it connects back to the island point. The Atacama Trench runs along the west coast of South America, and it is isolated, separated from other deep trench systems by vast expanses of ocean that hadal species cannot traverse. Because rising from the trench means passing through water that is fatally warm and fatally low pressure for an animal adapted to those depths. They cannot leave. They have not been able to leave for a very long time, which makes each trench an evolutionary laboratory running independently. Populations isolated for millions of years, subject to their own local conditions, diverging from relatives in other trenches with no possibility of interbreeding. This is the same mechanism that produced the extraordinary specificity of island species on land. Isolation plus time equals divergence. Except here, the islands are the deepest places on the planet, and we have barely looked at any of them. Recent genomic work makes this concrete. Research on deep-sea organisms has described the environment as an evolutionary engine, with datasets yielding hundreds of millions of unique genes, many with properties found nowhere else on land or in the shallower sea. That is a genuinely striking framing, not a barren margin of the biosphere, one of its most productive workshops. And this is happening alongside a broader wave of description that is worth putting in context. Recent work has described 24 new species of deep-sea amphipods across 10 families, including both predators and scavengers, and including what researchers characterized as a rare new branch of life. That work contributes to a project aiming to formally describe 1,000 new deep-sea species by the end of the decade. Separately, a single coordinated effort documented more than 1,100 new marine species in 1 year, from depths reaching beyond 6,500 meters. Those are not marginal footnotes to a complete catalog. That is the rate at which we are still finding out what is down there. So let us be honest about the limits of what we know. Almost every hadal species we have described was collected by a lander or a trawl, brought to the surface, and studied dead. We have observed very few of them behaving in their own environment, because putting a camera at 8,000 meters and keeping it there is enormously difficult and expensive. We know what Dulcibella camanchaca is. We have inferred that it hunts. We have not extensively watched it hunt. That gap is normal for this field, and it is worth naming rather than glossing over. Much of what we say about the deep ocean is careful inference from anatomy and from a small number of observations. It is good science. It is not the same as having watched. Now the part that gives this urgency. At the same time we are discovering these communities, industrial interest in the deep seabed is advancing. The governance framework for deep-sea mining remains unfinished. Negotiations have repeatedly failed to conclude a rulebook, and commercial pressure has not paused while the diplomacy stalls. And deep-sea ecosystems have a particular vulnerability. Everything down there runs slowly. Food is scarce, temperatures hover near freezing, and animals grow slowly, mature late, and reproduce rarely. A shallow reef can begin recovering within years. A deep-sea community disturbed today may take decades or centuries, and some of it may not recover on any timescale that means anything to us, which produces the uncomfortable position this channel keeps returning to. We are debating the rules for industrializing an environment we have not finished inventorying, and the inventory is currently producing new branches of life. Here is where I will leave you. 1.5 inches of pale crustacean pulled from 8 kilometers down in a trench isolated from every other trench on the planet that it should not be able to exist. The pressure should break its proteins. There should not be enough food to justify hunting. It is separated from its nearest relatives by an ocean it can never cross. And it is down there right now in absolute darkness, at 790 atmospheres, doing something we have theorized about but barely seen. The trenches were supposed to be the empty edge of the living world. They are turning out to be a chain of isolated laboratories, each running its own experiment, most of them never visited. We have been looking at the deep ocean properly for a few decades. It has been doing this for a few 100 million years. We are very early. If this one gripped you, the next episode goes to the governance fight over the seabed itself. Who decides what happens to 2/3 of the planet's surface and why the decision is being made now? That video is on your screen right now, and the full Deep Ocean series is linked in the description below. Subscribe to the Trench Report for new ocean investigations every week. We go where the light does not. And tell me in the comments, if you could send one camera to one trench and leave it there for a year, which would you pick and what do you think it would record? I read every reply. See you in the next one.